As long as I live, long as I live in your name, I will lift up my hands, so I will bless you. As long as I live, long as I live in your name, I will lift up my hands, but the king shall rejoice in God.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Monday. Brad here with Big Family Homestead. I hope you're having a blessed afternoon so far, whenever you're watching this video. Okay, we're not going to do the scary, everybody freak out and run for the hills kind of video. As a matter of fact, here, let's turn all the bling. Let's get rid of the bling right off the bat because it's just Brad. Christa's downstairs. She's actually making a video for you guys right now on how to bake some amazing cinnamon rolls. But like I was saying, we're not going to do the crazy, scare you kind of video, but I am seeing, and I don't know if you're seeing this as well in the news cycle, a lot of talk of solar flares. Are you guys seeing that? Solar flares, EMP, coronal mass ejections. That's what they call them. And I'm going to show you in some news articles. I'm seeing these things popping up all over the place. And I want to look at a few of these articles. We're going to talk about what's happening with FEMA and what I'm seeing from the White House. And then we'll talk about it. What does it look like? What would it be if one of these things actually happened? And why are we seeing so much right now? You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying? Let me skip over here. Let me scooch your comments. There's your comments. Hey, there's your comments. Let's scooch this out of the way for just a second. Let's look at this here. This is an article from Red State, and this is what got my mind wandering on the whole, well, sun flares, solar flares thing. And I'm going to skim it, but you can go there and look at it. It's current today. And basically, suddenly, without any warning, all electronics around me would be dead. This is their postulating on what would happen if you were in a newsroom. But bottom line is, it says a new science report it's predicting that the sun is going through a more active period of burping up coronal ejections. And what I described above could well happen. Well, the lights out and all that, right? But here it is. There have been a lot of solar flares. Becker says, this scientist from this study, flares are when the sun brightens and when we see the radiation, and it's kind of like a muzzle flash, and then the cannon shot of the coronal mass ejection. So we can see the flash, but then the coronal mass ejection can go off in some random direction in space, but we can tell when they're actually going to head toward Earth. And that gives us about 18 hours of warning and maybe 24 hours of warning before those particles actually hit the Earth and start messing with the Earth's magnetic field. They talk about the plasma, they talk about the radiation, they talk about the Carrington event, which happened peaking out in the past, 1859, in September 1st and 2nd. And then they start citing other articles and these studies. Here's one of them. Oh, no, I was going to tell you about that in a second. This is a documentary, but here, let me go to this one here. Superstorm. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, Fox Weather. They talk about basically the same things. There's new studies that are out. I do recommend that you do look at this, Grid Down, Power Up. This is it's a documentary, kind of a documentary. I guess it's a documentary. Talks about our power grid. Now, I'm going to sum up. You guys can look at this stuff on your own time, but I am seeing this all over the place. So what are we? Oh, there you are. Hey, there's your comments. Let me go back to this screen here. So what are we really talking about? If these people are speaking about all of these coronal mass ejections, the solar flares, the EMP possibilities, plasma from the sun, why am I seeing it all of a sudden, just tons of it? Okay. I don't know why, but it seems like whenever there's getting ready to be some kind of major news event, it's kind of like the bad guy in a Bond film, like a James Bond film, where they got to tell you before they do whatever they're going to do that's bad, that they're going to do it. Did you guys ever see that in James Bond films where it's like, oh yeah, there's this horrible thing that I'm going to do, but I'm going to tell you about it first. I'm going to give you all of the information, then I'm going to do it. I always thought that was funny. It's like, if you're really a bad guy, why don't you just do it? But I don't know if you've noticed this. When there's a big news cycle on something, it seems like all of a sudden you get all this flood of stories about a particular topic, and then something happens weeks later. Now, I am in no way saying that this is proof of anything when it comes to a solar flare or coronal mass ejection or EMP. The only reason why I'm bringing it up, well, there's a couple reasons I'm bringing it up. Because it's in the news cycle, and so, all right, scratching my head, right? Scratching my head. Why all these stories all of a sudden, number one. Number two, our power grid is in serious trouble. I don't know if you guys have seen that documentary, Grid Down, Power Up. You might want to watch it, because even if there was not any kind of major trauma happening to our power grid, it's in serious disrepair. And here's the thing, when it comes to electricity, all of the studies that I've read, by the way, have you guys seen any of this stuff I'm talking about? Or, because, by the way, say hi. This is a live stream. Jump in, add your 2 cents in the comments. That it'll be here in the chat. But when it comes to electricity, all of the science reports that I have seen, it's actually kind of scary stuff. They say that they estimate over 80% mortality, as high as 90% mortality, if there was all of a sudden, poof, no electricity. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to try to sell you anything at this point. That would be other channels. Other channels would go, got you good and scared? Now let's sell you something. No, I just want to put it out there because I'm seeing it in the news, number one. I know that our power grid is in serious trouble, number two. And number three, have you considered what would it be like to live without electricity for a few days, months, weeks? Would it? Would it be like camping for you? Or would it be life's over? You know what I'm saying? Folks, we live in a weird time, don't we? We live in a weird time. And it seems like the powers that be are not what they seem. You guys with me on that now? I try not to go down the conspiracy route, just because I don't like to talk about stuff that I can't say. I know that this is fact. I've verified it with 2 or 3 spots. I don't like to do that. But boy, doesn't it seem like the people that used to be heralded as these are our leaders and we trust them sure does seem like they really do have other agendas other than taking care of the people that they're supposed to be serving, right? Wow. Debbie says, my husband would freak out from Brooklyn, New York. Wow. I've been there. It's nice, depending on where you go. And you know what I mean. If you've been, you live there, you know what I'm saying. You know? So, honestly and truthfully, I wanted to jump on because I'm seeing these articles. I'm seeing them pop out there now. And the question is, could you do it? Would you do it? Do you guys know what an EMP is? Electromagnetic pulse. Do you know what that does? If you don't know what that does, it basically, not to get scientific, because we lose people. If it has a computer brain or it has an electric, like a circuit that is any kind of microchip, any kind of thing that's not basically tubes, it'll fry it. It's basically an electromagnetic pulse. So cars wouldn't work for the most part if it was close enough to an EMP. Phones would not work. The phone systems wouldn't work. Transmission of electricity would probably not work. It goes on and on and on. And those things happen when a major source of electromagnetic energy happens. Sometimes that can happen from the sun, like we're seeing with these coronal mass ejections. Sometimes that happens when a nuclear warhead is detonated, and some other things. But, you know, the real question is, outside of living without electricity, I mean, being ready for that, what could you do? Captain Craig says, get your Faraday cages ready. Well, Captain Craig, let me ask you a silly question. If you have a Faraday cage and you put your cell phone in that Faraday cage at exactly the right time that the EMP happens, and your phone is in good shape because you were smart and you put your phone in the Faraday cage, but you take your phone out and you go to call somebody. Wait a minute. Who are you going to call? And don't say Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Because if the system that this thing talks to is busted, and all of the communications that it talks to are busted, and everybody else's phones are busted, you got a great working phone. I guess you could listen to your music. Just a thought, guys. Just a thought. No matter what devices you have, like, okay, get the Bofang walkie-talkies, says 78J Swifty. I'm wondering if that's your handle, your ham radio handle. That seems like a ham radio handle. If you got the Bofang walkie-talkies, which I do, that's great. But if you don't have anybody that's nearby that kept their stuff in a Faraday cage, like a repeater, meaning a walkie-talkie is only good from one walkie-talkie to another one unless they're connected with what's called a repeater, or you make the walkie-talkies the repeaters. So there's a chain. So, but if anybody is not connected by a repeater or another one that's going to pass your signal along, it just isn't going to work. You can talk to your neighbor, or maybe a couple miles away, if you've got a really good walkie-talkie and there's nothing that's in the way that's going to cause that signal to dissipate. Yeah, Debbie, you couldn't even call Ghostbusters. So anyway, ladies and gents, that's the thought for the day. Number one, don't be scared of all this stuff that you see in the news, because first of all, what are you going to do about it outside of being prepared? And if you are prepared in terms of, hey, I'm doing what I can do with what I have the best I can, then outside of that, there's no reason to fret, right? Donna is asking, how do you protect solar panels and a generator? You're thinking of getting one. Well, Donna, depending on the solar generator that you get, because we've actually done several videos for different companies and different ones. If you don't keep that thing inside a Faraday cage and an electromagnetic pulse happen, it's going to get fried too. Because inside those things are several circuits. Some are designed to take that the photovoltaic energy from the panel and change that into usable electricity to either power the battery or something that you can actually use to charge a device or whatever, right? Well, inside that box, there's a thing called a charge controller. And there's also, what's the thing? Good night. It's a thing that you guys are you're laughing at me, and justly so. You're laughing at me. Inverter. Dang it. It's also the inverter, and there's batteries in there. So if there was an electromagnetic pulse that was strong enough that happened near your device, it's going to get fried too. So what would happen is you'd get your photovoltaic energy from your solar panels, and it would go to nothing because it would be fried. Now, what are the odds of a solar flare happening? Your guess is as good as mine, folks. And here's something else. When I was reading those articles, I don't know if anybody's read those articles today, chime in. Add to the conversation. The funny thing was they were talking about how scientists can't accurately predict weather 72 hours in advance. And this is not busting on meteorologists. It's just saying that weather is so complicated that they're just saying simply they don't get it right a lot, even though they try real hard, doggone it. But they just don't get it right a lot because it's so complicated. Then the articles went on to say, well, guess what? As hard as it is to protect the weather, it's as hard, if not more difficult, to predict if some kind of solar flare is going to happen. And then they mentioned you're not even going to get a day. You might get 24 hours notice, maybe if the right scientist was watching at the right time with the right equipment. And then they decided to go ahead and broadcast that information from a government-run approved message. Now, how many times do you think that kind of stuff goes out when they know there's a verifiable emergency coming and they broadcast it in advance? Just ask the people of Hawaii if they think that's likely. Anybody? I don't think it's likely. If they knew something really, really, really bad was happening and they knew there was nothing they could do about it, they're probably not going to go, hey, by the way, you got 24 hours, go nuts. Let me read a comment here. Mr. and Miss Lisa are saying perhaps CB radio handle. Okay, that's probably talking about 78J Swifty. Yeah. So solar panels. Now, you guys check me on this. When it comes to solar panels themselves, I am not sure whether it would fry a solar panel if the leads were not connected. Now, what do I mean by that? So you got a solar panel that's taking solar energy, photovoltaic energy, and then it's going through your AC and DC line, right? Positive and negative. and then it's going to go to your charge controller and inverter. Well, if you unplug those and the leads, the lines, the actual wire, they're not touching, I think they would still work. The question is, what would you do with it if you can't control it? Because the way that it works, guys, is if it's cloudy out, you're only going to get X amount of energy from the sun. And so your solar panel is only going to put out X amount of energy. And if it's like super bright, sunny, no issues, it's going to put out a ton of energy, as much as it is able to do. So that means like, let me see. I don't have it nearby. I had my drill right here because I was doing some work in the studio. But for the sake of illustration, let's say that this is my Milwaukee drill instead of the remote control that turns on that monitor. This is my Milwaukee drill. I love my Milwaukee drill. And I want to charge it up because for whatever reason, I decided smartly to put my Milwaukee drill in the Faraday cage, and then an EMP happened. And now I've taken it out because I've got some work to do. And hey, my Faraday cage worked, and I'm still in business. Except now the battery's dead. Got to charge it. How would you charge it? You need a charge controller, and you need a way to get the electricity into this thing without it messing up. Now, to go back to what Donna was asking originally, if you kept one in a Faraday cage, then in theory, it would work. In theory. Nobody has been through a major coronal mass ejection, like they're saying, was it in 1859? No one now has been through one like that. We can only tell kind of what happened. There weren't a whole lot of completely integrated, wired, networked systems then. You know what I'm saying? So other questions, guys. Other questions. What do you got for me? Because the whole idea is just take a deep breath. We're seeing all these things in the news. Do what you can, how you can, with what you got. And then after that, what are you going to do? I mean, we should always just put our faith and trust in God, right? That's what we do. We put our faith and trust in God, and then we prepare. And if you roll with it, whatever happens is going to happen. Swamp Picker says, plug it into potato. You guys ever built a potato clock? I built a potato clock when I was a little kid. You guys, does anybody know what I'm talking about with the potato clock, where you can actually get an electrical charge out of a potato because of the way that the acids are in the actual potato? I built a potato clock when I was a kid. It was amazing. And it taught me a lot about voltage. So, ladies and gents, that is going to probably wrap it up unless I see some questions here. And I am going to get back to recording some music because I've been recording some scripture music that's free. You can go and download, no strings attached, no nothing. You can go and download it. There's a link in the video description, but it's WYSIWYG or bigfamilyhomestead.com. But WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. WIS, WYSIWYG. Go get it for free. Share it. Want you to enjoy it. And honestly, there it is. So hope you have a blessed day. And you guys, we'll see you around. Bye-bye. Here's the song now.
Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land. So I will bless you as long as I live, long as I live in your name. I will lift up my hands, so I will bless you as long as I live, long as I live in your name. I will lift up my hands, but the king shall rejoice in God. All who swear by him shall exult, for the mouths of liars will be stopped, as in a dry and weary land. So I will bless you as long